Thank you everyone for making time for my Instagram live this morning. The next clips are a summary of self-management techniques for low back pain that you guys can try out, especially this quarantine period. For any questions or clarifications, feel free to comment down or message me directly. Enjoy! Be productive. Now that we have a better understanding about low back pain, let's talk about strategies and how to manage it yourself, since everyone's on a home quarantine at this time. Let's first talk about breathing patterns. So there's two main variations of breathing. One is chest breathing and another one is abdominal or diaphragmatic breathing. It is generally encouraged to breathe through the diaphragm into your abdomen more than the chest, because we have a better lung expansion when we breathe through our diaphragm. So to identify your own type, you can place your left hand on your chest and your right hand on your abdomen or your diaphragm, somewhere just right below the ribs. And try to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. So this 2 more times. And one last. Since my right hand rises more than the left, it means I'm engaging more of my diaphragm and abdomen when breathing. So if your left hand is rising more, then try and work towards breathing more into the right hand and practice this. There's also different kinds of breathing in terms of how to inhale and exhale, but for the purpose of our workouts and the way we do things on a physio way, we inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth, simply because we expel air so much better with your mouth. Okay. Now let's go through the first technique, which is activating, or after the breathing, the first technique to engage deep muscles of the core is to first identify the 3 layers of core. Usually, when we talk about core muscles, the first concept is your beach muscles, which is your abs. That's true, but it's not only the core muscles that we have. There's 3 layers actually. The first one is your abs and your lower and your back. So the flexors and extensors of the spine. That is the first layer. The second layer is the rotators or the obliques, and the last one, the innermost layer, is called your corset muscles. So these are the ones that we need to train so that we can brace your spine all together as a unit. Okay, so the best position to do this is lying down, facing up with your knees bent. So let's try and get to that position. You can do this on the floor, on the mat, or on the bed. So with my knees flexed, my hips and my abdominal muscles are a lot more relaxed. And I'm going to use 2 fingers to find the sharp edge of the hip bone. That's going to be my landmark, and move 2 finger breaths closer to the navel, and I'm going to find a soft spot in there. That soft spot is going to be indicating if I'm contracting the right muscles, if I'm overdoing it, or I'm not engaging as much. Now try and work into that breathing pattern we just practiced. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Okay, so now that I get the breathing in place, let me try and get to the contraction itself. What we can think about, or what we can visualize, is if we need to go to the bathroom and we cannot find a bathroom, how are we going to hold it in, right? So that's sort of the visual. And when I say pull, let's think of that contraction and connect it to the exhale. All right, so let's review. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, and pull. So what I'm trying to visualize here is I'm holding my pee and I'm pulling my belly button towards the bed, sort of flattening out the belly. All right, let's do this 2 more times. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, pull. Now my fingers can detect an increase of tension on the muscle or on the abdomen not a forceful contraction. A forceful contraction indicates that we're using the top layers more than the inner layers. Let's do this one more time. Inhale. And exhale. Pull. Alright. So I'm feeling that built up of pressure within my abdomen and my pelvic region. Okay. So that is bracing the spine. The next part of our low back self-management routine would be two components. There's a strengthening component and there's a stretching component. The strengthening component is waking up the muscles that are quite asleep, all right? And the stretching component is relaxing muscles that are overactive. So those are the two differences, and we need both of them so that we can get a balance and we can reduce the pressure on the spine and we can reduce pressure on the joints and engage the right muscles so that we can move more freely. The first strengthening exercise that we're gonna do is the bridges or glute activation. You wanna come down to the same position as we did the core activation. So bend both knees, hip width apart, hands on the floor. And what you want to try and do is raise your hips up high so that your neck, your shoulders, and your knees and the hips are at one straight line, okay? And you want to bring it down and lift it back up. So you know you're doing it right if you're feeling a squeeze on the glutes. If this is a bit too easy, one technique is to keep the hips off the ground, sort of hovering above the ground as you do so, all right? Another way, for the more advanced of you guys, you can simply raise the other leg up and go for a one leg variation of this, as you can see. So that focuses on one side more, definitely more challenging. Just make sure that we balance everything out on both sides. For the purpose of this video, let's keep the repetition range at 10 repetitions, 3 sets. If you're doing a one leg variation, make sure you do it equally. Next, we're gonna start stretching muscles that are kind of overly contracted. Imagine on a prolonged seated position, which for most of us working from home is pretty much keeping this angle of the hip. It's gonna shorten your hip flexors, right? And with short hip flexors, your back and your hips are not gonna extend back as much or as freely as it should be. In that case, we need to stretch this muscle out. One way of doing it, of doing this stretch, is going on a side lying position. So that means your shoulders, you can either go this way, or I prefer it this way actually, and then you can simply rest your head down here or pop it back up. It doesn't actually matter much, but your starting position is lying on the side with both knees bent. With both knees bent, you're keeping a stable base of support in here, okay? And you want to grab the back or the toes of your top leg and try and pull the knee back as far as you can go. So a good stretch is indicated by a good sensation or a stretch sensation here at the top hip, okay? So you want to pull it back for 30 seconds. What we also need to be cautious about is not overly extending the back, which could happen. So try and keep that neutral alignment. We're gonna touch upon that a little bit more later on, all right? And then after doing this side, you can simply turn to the other side and swap legs. Our timing will be 30 seconds for this, 3 sets on alternating sides. That's the proven duration of really lengthening your muscles and relaxing them. Our next strengthening exercise is for the back muscles as a whole unit. So the back is composed of a lot of muscles and layers, but essentially what we want to do is to reverse a flexed posture, which is this position, wherein your shoulders are rolled in, your neck popping forward, and you're basically the front of your body curled up. So in this position, you're subjecting the front of your body into tightening and weakening of the lower back muscles or the back muscles, right? So to reverse that, we need to wake up the back muscles, and this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna come down to the mat into Supermans, okay? So first, we can try splitting the body into upper body, 1, 2, 3, lower body, 1, 2, 3, and together as 1, 1, 2, 3, okay? That's one way of doing it. We can call it your combos variation. So if you're going to do the combos variation, you can do 10 rounds of that, and that would be good enough. You can also stick to the other variation, which is doing the Superman itself, lifting your upper body and lower body all together. You can do, if you prefer that variation, you can do 10 repetitions of that, 3 sets in total. Our next stretching routine would involve stretching your lower back muscles and the glutes. There's 3 layers of glutes muscles. The glutes maximus, which is the main muscle of extending the leg backward. The gluteus medius, or the stabilizer of the hip, and the side raiser of the hip, and another stabilizing muscle, right? So just for us to understand how different they are. So we're gonna combine these into a combo stretch workout. Start with both your knees bent and hugging them both at the same time towards your chest. So this is the first one. You will know if you'll know that you're doing this right if you feel a stretch on the low back. That's the target of this one. Next, you want to pop one leg down. You're going to drop it down, and bring this towards the shoulder, the same side of the shoulder. So this now focuses on the same glutes muscle of the same side. If we take it through the other shoulder or across, we're hitting the side glutes this time. So we are stretching 3 different muscles in sequence. After that, you go back to the other side. Again, same shoulder, and then bring it down to the opposite shoulder. So there we have it. As mentioned earlier, with stretches, let's keep it at 30 seconds of hold and 3 sets or 3 rounds of that. In that way, we get the maximum benefit out of it. And the last part, and I would say one of the most important components of our back pain management, is stretching the hamstring muscles. So let's also start on a position that we're already familiar with. Okay, now we're going to drop one foot on the floor, grab the other leg on a 90-degree angle, 90 and 90, all right? Hands on the thighs, pull your toes upward and stretch. Let's start by warming it up into pulses, about 3 to 5 times, and then hold it up into a stretch. Same thing, 30 seconds. And after 30, lower it down and work on your other side. Over here, sort of 90 degrees, grab your thighs, toes out, and pulse. 2, 3, 4, and hold it up. That concludes our self-management program for low back pain. Make sure to utilize this time that we all have during this home quarantine period to get rid of the pain, or at least minimize it. Let's summarize it for you. Okay, we started with breathing patterns. We encourage abdominal breathing or diaphragmatic breathing compared to chest breathing. Second, we started with core activation, which is bracing the deep muscles of your spine to make sure that they're holding it together like a corset. Third, we also alternated between strengthening exercises and stretching exercises. With strengthening exercises, we're going to do them for 10 repetitions and 1 to 3 sets. For stretching exercises, we're going to hold it for 30 seconds and do 3 sets per side. Alright, so thank you guys for watching, sharing your time with me today. Feel free to give feedback if needed. Stay tuned for more.